The massive alien ship hung in the sky above Seoul like a black cloud. Captain Tae-hyun Kim stood tall on the rooftop landing pad of the United Earth Defense Building. His hands were steady, but his heart raced. This was humanity's first meeting with beings from another world. "They're coming down," said Joo Park, the science officer standing beside him. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed worry. A beam of light shot down from the ship. When it faded, 7 tall creatures stood before the human welcome team. The aliens had black scales that seemed to drink in the light. Their yellow eyes scanned the humans with cold interest. "They look like walking shadows," whispered one of the soldiers. Tae-hyun stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth. We come in peace and friendship." The tallest alien tilted its head. Its mouth opened to show sharp teeth. "We are the Morketh," it said in perfect Korean, having learned the language from Earth's broadcasts. "Your world is now ours." Tae-hyun blinked, not sure he heard right. "I think there's been a mistake. We invited you here to talk, to learn from each other." The Morketh leader made a sound like stones grinding together. It might have been a laugh. "No mistake. The strong take. The weak give. This is the way of all worlds." Joo stepped forward. "Please, we can offer trade knowledge." "Silence," said the Morketh. "Your kind hunts in ones and twos. Weak. Divided. We hunt in packs. We will feast on your world." The aliens turned and walked back into the light beam. As they rose up to their ship, the leader looked down at Tae-hyun. "Prepare your people. The hunt begins at dawn." Tae-hyun rushed to the command center with Joo. General Dong-yun Choi was already calling world leaders. "They said they're going to attack tomorrow," Tae-hyun reported, still in shock. "All major cities are on alert," said Dong-yun, "but we know nothing about their weapons or tactics." Joo was studying the meeting recording. "They kept saying, 'We hunt in packs.' I think that's important." The next morning, the sky filled with hundreds of small black ships. They moved together like schools of fish, turning and diving as one. Earth's fighters tried to stop them, but couldn't match their perfect teamwork. "They move like wolves," said Tae-hyun, watching the battle screens. "No single leader. They just know what the others will do." The Morketh ships hit Seoul first. They flew in tight groups, covering each other, never leaving one of their kind alone. When human forces tried to split them up, they quickly came back together. "Our pilots fight as individuals," said Dong-yun. "Even in teams, each makes their own choices, but the Morketh fight as one mind in many bodies." By sunset, 5 major cities around the world were burning. The Morketh had launched ground troops too, black-scaled soldiers that always moved in groups of 7. They never separated, even when it would have been smarter to split up. In a hidden bunker beneath Seoul, Tae-hyun and the Earth Defense Council watched the battles with heavy hearts. "They're too coordinated," said one general. "We can't outfight them." "Maybe we don't need to," said a quiet voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned. A woman in simple hiking clothes stood there. She wasn't military or government. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" demanded Dong-yun. "My name is Hyun Lee," she said. "I'm a wilderness guide from the mountains. I tracked big animals for 20 years. This is no time for," began Dong-yun, but Tae-hyun held up his hand. "Let her speak." Hyun pointed at the screen showing the Morketh fighters. "You keep saying they hunt in packs. That's their strength, but it's also their weakness." "What do you mean?" asked Joo. "Pack hunters don't understand lone hunters," said Hyun. "They can't think that way. They always expect attacks from groups." She stepped forward, eyes locked on the alien ships moving in perfect formation. "You're trying to beat them at their own game. But humans have something they don't." "What's that?" asked Tae-hyun. Hyun smiled for the first time. "We know how to hunt alone." Everyone in the room stared at Hyun. Some looked confused, others doubtful. "Hunt alone? Against those things?" General Dong-yun shook his head. "Our military works in units. We train together, fight together. Heun walked to the big screen showing the Morcath ships. That's the problem. You fight like them, but not as well. They've done this for thousands of years. Taehyun studied the quiet woman. There was something about her that made him listen. Tell us more about hunting alone. Heun's eyes seemed to look far away. I was 6 when my parents died. My grandfather raised me in the mountains. He taught me the old ways of hunting. We don't have time for stories, said a military officer. Let her speak, ordered Dongyun. Now curious. Grandfather showed me that big groups make noise. They leave signs. They scare away prey. Heun's voice was soft but sure. But one person, moving like a shadow, can get close to any animal. She pointed to the screen. These Morcath, they can't think alone. Look how they fly, how they fight. Always in groups. What happens when one gets separated? Jiwoo quickly checked the battle records. They fly erratically. They try to get back to their group right away. Even if it puts them in danger, added Heun. They fear being alone. Taehyun leaned forward. So you think we should target single ships? Pick them off? No, we should send in single fighters. Lone hunters. One person, one mission. Heun's eyes were bright. The Morcath won't understand. They'll look for the pack, the team. They won't see the lone wolf until it's too late. The room was quiet. Then Dongyun spoke. It goes against all our training. That's why it might work, said Taehyun. They expect us to fight like them. Heun nodded. My grandfather taught me to track bears alone. Most hunters go in groups. The bears know to watch for groups, but one person, moving like the wind. The bear never expects it. How did you survive the attack on Seoul? Asked Jiwoo. I was tracking a deer in the mountains when the ships came. I watched them from the forest. Heun's face grew dark. Then I walked back to the city. I saw how they moved, how they hunted. Dongyun stood up. This is crazy. We can't rebuild our entire military strategy on the advice of a mountain guide. What choice do we have? Asked Taehyun. Our current plans aren't working. Suddenly, alarms blared. More Morcath ships were attacking. On the screen, they moved in perfect formation, diving toward another city. We need to show you something, said Taehyun to Heun. Follow me. He led her to a smaller room with special screens. It showed Earth fighters trying to attack the aliens. Each time human planes formed groups, the Morcath surrounded and destroyed them. Our pilots are trained to work together, explained Taehyun. Cover each other. Fly in formation. Heun studied the battle. There. Look. She pointed to one screen where a single fighter had been separated from its group. It was flying erratically, trying different moves. That pilot is in trouble, said Dongyun, who had followed them. No. Watch, said Heun. The lone fighter dove straight at a Morcath pack. The alien ships broke formation, confused by the single attacker. The human fighter shot down 2 before escaping. See, they didn't know how to respond to one, said Heun. They expect groups. Dongyun's face changed. Maybe there's something to this. I need to show your best people how to hunt alone, said Heun. How to think alone. How to be the wolf, not the pack. Taehyun nodded slowly. If we can't beat them with strength, maybe we can beat them with surprise. One more thing, said Heun, her face serious. Lone hunters need to know their prey. I need to see a Morcath up close. That's too dangerous, said Jiwoo. No hunt succeeds if you don't know what you're hunting, replied Heun. Her eyes were cold now, like the mountains she came from. I need to understand how they think, how they move, what they fear. Dongyun looked at Taehyun. Both men knew she was right. We have one, said Taehyun finally. A Morcath soldier, captured this morning. Heun nodded. Take me to it. It's time I met our prey. The holding cell was deep underground. Heun walked beside Taehyun, her steps silent from years of hunting. 6 armed guards stood outside the cell door. "It hasn't spoken since we caught it," said Tae-hyun. "Its pack was killed in the crash. It's been alone all this time?" Hae-hyun asked. "Yes. Dr. Minji Kang has been studying it," Tae-hyun explained. "She's our best xenobiologist, someone who studies alien life." A woman in a white coat walked up to them. "I'm Dr. Kang," she said, shaking Hae-hyun's hand. "Captain Kim says you have an interesting theory about the Morketh. I need to see it," Hae-hyun said simply. Dr. Kang nodded and led them to a window. On the other side was a room with a single Morketh. The black-scaled alien paced back and forth, its movements jerky and unnatural. It kept touching its head as if in pain. "What's wrong with it?" asked Hae-hyun. "We think it's suffering without its pack," Dr. Kang said. "Look at these brain scans." She showed them a tablet with colorful images. The Morketh brain has a special part that's always active. But in this one, that part is barely working. "Like it's missing something," said Tae-hyun. "Exactly," Dr. Kang agreed. "I believe the Morketh have a kind of group mind. They're still individuals, but when together, their brains connect somehow." Hae-hyun watched the alien closely. "It's scared," she said. "Not of us. Of being alone." "Yes," Dr. Kang said, surprised. "How did you know?" "I've tracked frightened animals all my life," Hae-hyun said. "Fear looks the same across species. Its movements are too fast. It keeps checking all directions. It's not looking for escape. It's looking for others like it." Tae-hyun frowned. "If they can't function well alone, that's a weakness we can use." Dr. Kang nodded. "There's more. We found a device in its armor that sends and receives signals, like a radio, but it connects directly to its nervous system." "A physical connection to the pack," said Hae-hyun. "Can I go inside?" "Too dangerous," Tae-hyun said quickly. "I need to see how it reacts to one human," Hae-hyun insisted. "Just me. No group." After much argument, they agreed. Hae-hyun entered the cell alone, unarmed. The guards watched anxiously through the window. The Morketh froze when Hae-hyun entered, its yellow eyes fixed on her. It made a clicking sound with its teeth. Hae-hyun stood still. She didn't speak or move closer. She just waited, like she would when approaching a wild animal. The alien tilted its head. It seemed confused by her calmness, her solitude. "Where is your pack?" it finally asked in a raspy voice. "I have no pack," Hae-hyun replied. "I hunt alone." The Morketh made a sound like hissing steam. "Not possible. All hunters need pack. Need many eyes, many teeth." "Humans can hunt alone," said Hae-hyun. "One mind, one purpose. No need for others." The alien seemed disturbed by this idea. It stepped back. "Wrong. Wrong way. Alone is death." "For you, maybe," said Hae-hyun. "For me, alone is strength." She took one step forward. The Morketh flinched. "You fear what you don't understand," Hae-hyun said softly. "The lone hunter is invisible to you." She left the cell. Outside, Dr. Kang and Tae-hyun stared at her in amazement. "That was incredible," said Dr. Kang. "It actually spoke to you, and it was afraid, not of humans, but of your solitary nature." "Now I understand what we need to do," said Hae-hyun. "The Morketh evolved as pack hunters. They can't comprehend a predator that hunts alone. It goes against everything they know." "So we use that," said Tae-hyun. "But how do we turn our soldiers into lone hunters? We've trained them to work in teams for years." "Most won't be able to change," admitted Hae-hyun. "We need special people, those who can think for themselves, who don't need others to feel strong." "Like you," said Dr. Kang. Hae-hyun nodded. "Let me train them. Let me show them how to become what the Morketh fear most, the predator that hunts alone." Tae-hyun looked at her with new respect. "I'll talk to General Dong-yen. We'll need to create a new kind of fighting force." "Yes," said Hae-hyun. "And we need a name for them." "What do you suggest?" asked Dr. Kang. Heiyun thought of her years in the mountains, tracking silent and alone under the stars. Black wolves, she said, because one wolf can bring down prey many times its size, if it knows how to hunt. 1 week later, Heiyun stood before 50 men and women in a remote mountain base. These soldiers had been chosen from thousands of volunteers. Each had scored high on tests for independent thinking and solo operation skills. "You are here because you can think alone," Heiyun told them. "The enemy cannot understand this. It is our greatest weapon." General Dong Yun walked up beside her. "This is Project Black Wolf. You will learn to fight in a way that goes against all your training. No teams, no backup, just you against the enemy." A tall soldier raised his hand. "Sir, with respect, we've always been taught that teamwork wins battles." "Your name?" asked Heiyun. "Jin Yun, Special Forces." "Soldier Yun, what happens when your team is killed? When you're the last one standing?" Heiyun asked. Jin Young straightened his back. "We fight until extraction or death." "Sir, and have you been in that situation before?" Jin Young's face darkened. "Yes, 3 years ago. Lost my whole squad. Survived 2 days alone behind enemy lines." Heiyun nodded. "That's why you're here. You survived alone. The Morcath can't do that. When separated from their pack, they become weak, confused." Dr. Kang stepped forward with a tablet. "We've studied their communication. The Morcath connect through special signals. When together, they share information instantly, but alone." She showed a video of the captured alien pacing in its cell. They become disoriented. Taehyun addressed the group. "Each of you will train to fight alone. You'll learn to think like lone wolves, not pack animals." "This goes against human nature," one woman said. "No," Heiyun replied. "Humans can adapt. We can be social or solitary. The Morcath can only be one thing, part of a pack." The training began that day. It was unlike anything the soldiers had experienced. Instead of working together, they were separated. Each was given their own territory in the mountains. They could not communicate with each other. They had to hunt their own food, build their own shelter. Some struggled. Jin Young was one of them. On the 3rd day, Heiyun found him sitting by a small fire, looking lost. "This feels wrong," he said. "I keep wanting to check on the others." Heiyun sat across from him. "Tell me about the time you were alone behind enemy lines." Jin Young's eyes grew distant. "It was hell. But after the first day, something changed. I stopped thinking about rescue. I focused only on surviving each moment." "That's what we need," said Heiyun. "That mindset. The lone wolf doesn't worry about the pack. It worries only about the hunt." By week 2, something changed. The soldiers stopped looking for each other. They moved through the forest like ghosts. Each developed their own way of tracking, hunting, hiding. Taehyun watched their progress with Dr. Kang. "It's working," he said. "They're becoming different kinds of fighters." "Not just fighters," said Dr. Kang. "Hunters." Heiyun introduced the next phase. Each soldier received a small black device. "This is your shadow," explained Dr. Kang. "An advanced AI system. Not a teammate, but a tool. It will help you track Morcath signals and movements. Unlike the Morcath who need living companions," added Taehyun, "you will have technology as your only partner." Jin Young studied his shadow device. "So we're not truly alone." "The machine doesn't think for you," said Heiyun. "It doesn't protect you. It only gives you information. The decisions, the actions, those are still yours alone." General Dong Hyun arrived with urgent news. "A Morcath scout ship has been detected near this region. It's a small pack, 7 ships. Perfect for a test," said Taehyun. Heiyun looked at Jin Young and the others. "Who's ready for a real hunt?" Every hand went up. "Good," said Heiyun. "Soldier Yoon, you'll lead the first mission. Show the Morcath what one wolf can do." Jin Young stood tall. The lost look was gone from his eyes. Now there was only focus, determination. I won't be hunting with others, he said. But I won't be hunting alone either. He held up his shadow device. I'll be hunting as one. Dawn broke over the mountains. 7 Morcath scout ships glided through the clouds, their black hulls shining in the early light. They flew in perfect formation, never more than a few hundred meters apart. In the command center, Haydun, Taehyun, and General Dongyun watched the enemy ships on large screens. They're searching for our base, said Dongyun. Standard pack hunting pattern. Haehyun nodded. They expect us to attack as a group or hide as a group. But we won't do either, said Taehyun with a small smile. 5 Black Wolf soldiers were already in position. Each was hidden alone in the mountains, miles apart from one another. Jinyoung crouched under a rock overhang, his shadow device silent in his hand. For the first time in his military career, he had no team radio chatter, no squad mates to watch his back. He felt strangely calm. Target approaching your sector, the shadow device whispered. Its screen showed a single Morcath ship breaking away from the others to investigate a valley. Perfect. Just as Haehyun had predicted, the aliens would split up to cover more ground, but never go too far from each other. Jinyoung readied his weapon, a new type of launcher that fired projectiles designed to disrupt Morcath communications. He didn't need to destroy the ship, just isolate it from its pack. The black ship drifted closer. Jinyoung stayed perfectly still, controlling his breathing the way Haehyun had taught him. The Morcath could sense fear, could sense the tension of a hunting group waiting to attack. But they couldn't sense a lone hunter who was calm, patient, one with the environment. In the command center, Dr. Kang monitored the soldiers' vital signs. Amazing, she said. Their heart rates are normal. They're not showing stress responses. They've learned to be the wolf, said Haehyun. The Morcath ship was now directly overhead. Jinyoung waited for the perfect moment, then fired. The projectile hit its target, releasing a burst of energy that scrambled the ship's communications. Immediately, the ship began to move erratically. It fired weapons in all directions, trying to find the attacking force. But there was no force, only one hunter. Jinyoung moved to a new position, silent and invisible. His shadow device guided him to a blind spot in the ship's sensors. He fired again, this time hitting an engine. In the command center, they watched as the other Morcath ships reacted to the attack. They circled, confused. Their formation became tighter. They're protecting each other, said Dongyun. They can't understand an attack from just one direction. Around the mountains, the other Black Wolf soldiers engaged their targets. Each followed the same strategy. Isolate, confuse, attack. No coordination between them was needed. Each hunter focused only on their own prey. Jinyoung's target ship was now damaged and alone. Its pack was too busy with their own attackers to help. He moved in for the final strike. But as he prepared to fire, his shadow device suddenly failed. The screen went dark. No, he whispered. Without the device, he couldn't track the ship's blind spots or predict its movements. The Morcath ship turned toward him, sensors scanning. It had found him. Jinyoung closed his eyes for a moment. Then he remembered Haehyun's words. The shadow is just a tool. The hunter is you. He put away the device and looked at the ship with new eyes. He saw its damaged section, the way it moved awkwardly without its pack's guidance. Like a wounded animal, it had patterns, weaknesses. Jinyoung moved through the forest, using only his instincts now. He climbed a tall rock, watching the ship's searching pattern. When it turned away, he fired his last shot. Direct hit. The ship crashed into the valley floor in a ball of fire. In the command center, cheers erupted as the screen showed 5 Morcath ships destroyed. 2 had escaped, flying erratically back to their main fleet. First blood to the wolves, said General Dongyun. Haehyun watched the screens with quiet pride. This is just the beginning, she said. Now they'll be confused, afraid. They've never faced hunters like this before. Taehyun nodded. But the next hunt won't be so easy. They'll adapt. "So will we," said Haven. "The lone wolf must always be smarter than its prey." As the Black Wolf soldiers returned to base, Jin Young was the last to arrive. He placed his broken shadow device on the table before Heian. "It failed," he said, "but I didn't need it at the end. I remembered what you taught us." Heian smiled. "Now you understand. The true lone hunter's greatest weapon is not technology." "It's here," said Jin Young, tapping his head. "And here." He placed his hand over his heart. "Yes," said Haven. "One mind, one heart, one hunter." 2 weeks after the first Black Wolf mission, the war had changed. News of the lone hunters spread through human forces. More soldiers volunteered for the program. The Morcath still held the advantage in numbers and technology, but they had lost something important: their sense of safety in numbers. In the main command center, Taehyun called an urgent meeting. Hayden, General Dongyun, Dr. Kang, and Jin Young gathered around a large table. "We captured something important," said Taehyun. He placed a strange black device on the table. It looked like a small, shiny egg with lines of red light pulsing across its surface. "What is it?" asked Jin Young. Dr. Kang touched the device carefully. "It's a Morcath data core. We found it in one of the destroyed ships. Most of the information is still locked, but we managed to access some of it." She pressed a button, and a 3D map appeared above the table. It showed the positions of all Morcath ships around Earth. "Their fleet is huge," said General Dongyun with a worried face. "Yes, but look here." Dr. Kang pointed to a large ship at the center of the map. It was bigger than all the others, surrounded by a protective ring of smaller ships. "This is their command vessel. They call it the heart of the pack." Heiyun leaned closer. "Everything flows from the center," she said softly. "Just like in animal packs, the leaders direct the others." "Exactly," said Dr. Kang. "And I've discovered something else." She showed them more data from the core. "The Morcath have what they call an Alpha Pack, a group of 5 leaders who control the entire invasion. They stay on this main ship. Cut off the head and the body dies," said Jin Young. Taehyun nodded. "If we can reach this Alpha Pack, we might be able to stop the war." "But the ship is surrounded by thousands of Morcath," said General Dongyun. "We can't fight through them." "We don't fight through them," said Heiyun. "We slit between them, one hunter at a time." Jin Young looked at the map. Even for the Black Wolves, this would be nearly impossible. The heart is deep in their territory. "What if we had better intelligence?" asked Taehyun. He touched the data core again. "This has star maps, ship layouts. With this information, we might find a way in." Dr. Kang studied the core. "I can try to unlock more data, but it could take days. And even then, we would need a way to enter their ship undetected." Haven was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "We need to understand how the Alpha Pack thinks, how it controls the others." "The captured Morcath might know," suggested Jin Young. They returned to the holding cell where the lone Morcath still paced restlessly. After weeks alone, it looked thinner, its movements slower. Heiyun entered the cell alone again. The alien watched her with dull yellow eyes. "You lead the lone hunters," it said in its raspy voice. "The ones who fight wrong." "We fight as we must," said Heiyun. "Tell me about the Alpha Pack." The Morcath hissed. "Sacred ones, 5 who are one. They guide all packs." "How do they control ships so far away?" asked Heiyun. The alien touched its head. "The signal, always in our minds. Without it, we are lost." Dr. Kang, watching from outside, suddenly understood. "It's a psychic network," she said to Taehyun. "The Alpha Pack broadcasts control signals to all Morcath. That's why they fall apart when isolated." Inside the cell, Heiyun continued, "Can the Alpha Pack be separated?" The Morcath made a strange sound, almost like laughter. "Never separate. Always together. 5 bodies, 1 mind." As Heiyun left the cell, she had a determined look on her face. We need to reach that command ship, she told the others. And I need to face the Alpha Pack. That's a suicide mission, said General Dongyun. Maybe, said Haven. But what choice do we have? Taeyun studied the star map again. If we can slip a small team close to their command ship, maybe we can find a way aboard. Not a team, said Haven firmly. Individual hunters, each with their own path, their own mission. Together but separate, the opposite of how the Morketh operate. Jin Young stepped forward. I volunteer to go. Me too, said a voice from the doorway. A woman in a Black Wolf uniform entered. Black Wolf Sun Wuzhong, reporting for the hunt. Heun looked at the two soldiers. 3 of us, then. 3 lone wolves against the heart of the pack. When do we leave? Asked Sunwoo. As soon as Dr. Kang unlocks the rest of this data core, said Taeyun. You'll need every advantage we can give you. Heun nodded. The greatest hunts are always the most dangerous. And this is the greatest hunt of all. Space was cold and silent around the small stealth ship. Inside, Heun, Jinyoung, and Sunwoo made final checks on their gear. Dr. Kang had unlocked enough data from the Morketh core to give them a fighting chance. Remember, said Taehyun through the comm system from Earth, once you leave this ship, you'll each be on your own. No communication between you. No helping each other. 3 hunters, 3 paths, 1 goal, said Heun. She looked at her companions. Are you ready? Both nodded. Their faces were calm, focused. The Morketh Heart ship is 5 kilometers ahead, said Jinyoung, checking his shadow device. Their sensors are focused outward, looking for group attacks. They still don't understand lone hunters, said Sunwoo. The veteran soldier was older than the others, with gray in her short hair, but her eyes were sharp and clear. The plan was simple but dangerous. Each would enter the massive Morketh ship at a different point. Each had their own mission. Jinyoung would disable the ship's communications. Sunwoo would plant explosives in the engine room. Heun would find the Alpha Pack. Dr. Kang's voice came through the comm. We've detected a small opening in their sensor net. It's time. The 3 hunters looked at each other one last time. Good hunting, said Heun. Then they separated, each taking the small 1-person pod toward the massive black ship. They flew far apart, following different paths through the darkness. Jinyoung reached the ship first. His pod attached to the hull like a tiny parasite. Using tools made from captured Morketh technology, he cut his way inside. The corridors were dark, lit only by strips of red light. Jinyoung moved silently, his shadow device mapping the way. He passed groups of Morketh soldiers, but they never noticed him. They looked only for packs of enemies, not for a single intruder moving like a shadow. On Earth, Taehyun and Dr. Kang watched through the feeds from the hunters' cameras. It's working, whispered Dr. Kang. They're invisible to the Morketh. Sunwoo entered through a maintenance hatch near the engines. The huge room hummed with strange energy. Morketh technicians worked in groups of 7, always touching, always connected. She placed her explosives carefully, setting timers. Her shadow device showed her the critical points where the damage would be greatest. Heun took the most dangerous route. She entered through the waste disposal system, enduring terrible smells and tight spaces. But it brought her closest to the center of the ship, to the chamber where the Alpha Pack would be. All 3 hunters moved deeper into enemy territory, alone, but with the same purpose. Then something went wrong. Sunwoo placed her final explosive, but as she turned to leave, a panel opened in the wall. 7 Morketh engineers entered, almost walking into her. For a moment, no one moved. The aliens stared at the human in shock. Then they attacked as one. Sunwoo fought bravely, her training showing in every move. But there were too many. 1 Morketh managed to hit an alarm. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. Screeching sounds hurt the humans' ears. They know we're here, said Jinyoung into his comm. He was close to the communication center. Continue your mission, ordered Haven. We knew this might happen. Sunwoo was surrounded. She looked at her shadow device. The explosives were set, but she needed more time. I won't make it to the exit, she said calmly, but I can give you both time. Sunwoo, no, said Jinyoung. But she had made her choice. The veteran soldier turned off her comm and charged toward a large group of Morketh guards, drawing them away from the path the others would need to take. In the engine room, Morketh soldiers cornered Sunwoo. She smiled at them, thinking of Earth, of forests and mountains. The wolf hunts alone, she said, but never dies alone. She pressed a button on her belt. One explosive detonated early, smaller than planned but enough to create chaos. In different parts of the ship, Haeun and Jinyoung felt the explosion. They knew what it meant. One wolf falls, whispered Haeun, but the hunt continues. She had reached the central chamber. Behind a massive door, the Alpha Pack waited. I'm at the communication center, said Jinyoung. Ready when you are. Haeun took a deep breath. Begin. Jinyoung smashed through the final barrier and started the program Dr. Kang had created. The Morketh's psychic network would be disrupted for a few precious minutes. It was time for Haeun to face the heart of the enemy. Time for one wolf to confront the leaders of the pack. The massive door to the Alpha chamber slowly opened. Haeun stood silent, and still, her shadow device clutched tightly in her hand. The air smelled strange, sweet and thick, like nothing on earth. Inside the chamber, 5 tall thrones stood in a circle. On each throne sat a Morketh larger than any Haeun had seen before. Their black scales had streaks of red, and their yellow eyes glowed in the dim light. They are confused, whispered Jinyoung through the comm. The network disruption is working. You have maybe 10 minutes. Haeun stepped into the chamber. The 5 Alpha Morketh turned to look at her. Their movements were perfectly matched, as if one mind controlled all their bodies. Human. They spoke in unison, their voices blending together. You are alone. You will die alone. I am alone, said Haeun calmly. But that is my strength, not my weakness. The Alpha Morketh seemed puzzled by this. They looked at each other, their movements no longer perfectly synchronized. Jinyoung's disruption was affecting even them. Your kind cannot understand, continued Haeun, moving slowly around the edge of the room. You evolved to hunt in packs, to think as groups. You never learned to be individuals. Individuals are weak, said the Alphas, but their voices were no longer perfectly together. The pack survives. Is that why you attacked Earth? Because we don't think like you. The largest Alpha, with scales so black they seemed to swallow light, spoke alone for the first time. Your kind is wrong. Dangerous. Some hunt in groups. Some hunt alone. No unity. No purpose. Haeun understood then. You fear us because we have a choice. We can be both pack animals and lone wolves. You cannot. The Alphas shifted uncomfortably. Their mental connection was weakening further. They were becoming separate beings, perhaps for the first time in their lives. 5 minutes left, said Jinyoung in her ear. The Morketh are starting to override our disruption. Haeun knew she had to act quickly. From her pack, she took out a special device that Dr. Kang had created, a more powerful version of the disruptor affecting the ship's network. But before she could activate it, the smallest Alpha leaped from its throne with surprising speed. It knocked the device from her hand and pinned her to the floor. You think you understand us, it hissed, its face close to hers. We are 5, but we are 1. You are 1, and you are alone. The other 4 Alphas surrounded her, their clawed hands reaching down. Wrong, said Haeun through gritted teeth. I am never truly alone. With a powerful move she had learned in the mountains, Haeun broke free from the Alpha's grip. She rolled across the floor and grabbed her fallen device. The lone wolf carries the strength of all wolves, she said. She pressed the button. The device sent out waves of energy that disrupted the mental connection between the Alphas even more. They screamed in pain and confusion, falling to their knees. "What have you done?" cried the largest alpha. For the first time, real fear showed in its yellow eyes. "I've shown you what it means to be alone," said Haven. "Now you must learn to be individuals, or you will die as individuals." The chamber shook as Sunwoo's explosives finally detonated in sequence. The ship's engines were critically damaged. "Haeun, we need to leave now," shouted Jinyoung through the comm. "The ship is breaking apart." But Haeun wasn't finished. She approached the largest alpha, who now cowered on the floor. "You came to our world to conquer. You thought we were weak because some of us hunt alone, but you never understood our true strength." The alpha looked up at her, its eyes showing a new emotion, doubt. "What strength?" it asked, its voice now separate from the others. "We can be both," said Haven. "Pack when needed, lone wolves when needed. We adapt. You cannot." The ship shuddered again. Alarm sounds blared through the chamber. 2 minutes until complete system failure," reported Jinyoung. "I'm heading to the escape point. Meet me there." Haven looked at the 5 broken alphas. Their mental bond was shattered, perhaps forever. They were experiencing true individuality for the first time in their lives. "You can surrender," she told them. "Come with me. Learn a new way to live." The largest alpha slowly stood up. It looked at its fellow leaders, then back at Haven. "Perhaps," it said, its voice strange and uncertain, without the others speaking with it, "we have much to learn from the lone hunters." The ship groaned as its structure began to fail. Time was running out. "Then follow me," said Haven. "If you want to survive, follow the wolf." The Morcath command ship broke apart in a series of bright explosions. Earth forces watched from a safe distance as pieces of the massive vessel scattered across space. "Any sign of them?" asked Tadian, his eyes fixed on the screens in the command center. Dr. Kang shook her head. "No signals from Haeun or Jinyoung. They might not have made it out." General Dongyun placed a hand on Tadian's shoulder. They knew it was likely a one-way mission. Around them, the mood was both hopeful and sad. The destruction of the Alpha Pack had thrown the entire Morcath fleet into chaos. Without central guidance, the alien ships moved erratically, many crashing into each other. "It worked," said Taeyeon softly. "The wolves brought down the pack." "Sir," called out a young officer, "we're picking up a signal. Small ship approaching from the debris field." Everyone rushed to the screens. A tiny shuttle was moving toward Earth. Its design was Morcath, but it flew a path no Morcath ship ever would, zigzagging unpredictably, making it hard to track. "That's not Morcath flying," said Dongyun with a growing smile. "That's a wolf." They made contact with the shuttle. When the comm crackled to life, Jinyoung's tired voice came through. "Mission complete. Requesting landing clearance. We have guests." 3 hours later, Haeun and Jinyoung stood in a secure room at Earth Defense Headquarters. With them were 2 of the Alpha Morcath. The other 3 had not survived the ship's destruction. "They chose to come with us," explained Haeun. When their mental bond broke, they had to make individual choices for the first time. The 2 alphas looked strange and lost. Their movements were awkward, no longer perfectly synchronized. But there was something new in their yellow eyes, curiosity. "We wish to learn," said the larger one, speaking slowly as if still getting used to speaking alone. "About hunting alone. About being one." Taehyun looked skeptical. "Can we trust them?" "They're not the same beings anymore," said Dr. Kang, who had been examining them. "Breaking their mental connection changed them fundamentally. They're learning what it means to be individuals." The remaining Morcath fleet was already retreating. Without the Alpha Pack's guidance, their society was in disarray. Many ships had surrendered, their crews experiencing the same confusion as their leaders. 1 month later, Haeun stood on a mountain top, watching the sunset. Below in the valley, a new facility had been built, the Black Wolf Training Academy. Soldiers from around the world came to learn the way of the lone hunter. Jinyoung walked up beside her. The first Morketh students arrive tomorrow, he said. Are you ready to teach them? Heon nodded. They want to learn. That's a start. Do you think they can change? Really change? They already have, said Heon. Like us, they're learning to be both, to understand the strength of the pack and the power of the individual. From the trees behind them came a strange figure, one of the Alpha Morketh. It moved cautiously, still getting used to being alone. Teacher, it said to Heon, I have practiced the tracking exercise, alone, as you instructed. And how did it feel? Asked Heon. The Morketh was quiet for a moment. Strange, frightening, but also free. Heon smiled. That's what it means to be a lone hunter, to rely on yourself, to find your own path. Our people have much to learn from yours, said the Morketh. We thought your way was weakness. We were wrong. And we can learn from you too, said Jinyoung. The strength of unity, of working together. Heon looked out at the sunset again. Two ways of hunting, both valuable, both powerful. In the valley below, other Black Wolf graduates were training, some in groups, some alone. And among them walked several Morketh, learning to balance their natural pack instincts with new individual skills. Sun Wu's sacrifice had not been forgotten. A stone marker stood at the center of the training grounds, with words Heon had chosen. She hunted alone, but never died alone. What now? Asked Jinyoung. Now we teach, said Heon. We show both humans and Morketh that true strength comes from flexibility, from knowing when to be the pack and when to be the wolf. The Alpha Morketh looked up at the stars, where its people were learning a hard but necessary lesson. Once we hunted in packs of black predators, it said thoughtfully. And we hunted with one, finished Heon. Now we hunt together, as both. That is the way forward. As night fell over the mountains, the three figures stood together, former enemies now united in a new understanding of what it meant to be truly strong. The end.